Seriously, where did time go? I feel like it was July and I blinked, and now it's November. I'm hoping I can blink again and it'll be February. Hi everyone, my name is Holly. I hope you're all doing wonderful. Today I am going to be reviewing all of the books that I read in October. The stack here may look small, but oh boy, is it mighty. I found some new favorites, which I'm very excited to talk about, so let's go ahead and just jump right on in, because me want to share. Me want to share good books to you. So the very first book that I read was The Nightmare Room by Chris Sorensen. Of course I had to start the month with a spoopy read. Every time I say the word spoopy, I think of the word poop right in the middle of it, and it just ruins the effect. This book has all of the familiar elements to a really good haunted house story, a character with a troubled past, a creepy old house, and a haunting presence that was actually more on the complex side in a way that the presence, I'm putting quotations because I don't want to spoil much, manifests and forms. We are immediately introduced to this. The first chapter opens up with a little boy being sent to the basement by his unsympathetic father. This is particularly a horrible punishment because the basement is also lurking with something very evil. Although the book flips periodically from this flashback episode, the book primarily focuses on a man named Peter and his wife who are moving back home to this Midwestern town because Peter's father is ill, and they end up moving into this house which has a lot of history within it. While I did really like this story, unfortunately it didn't give me the thrills and chills that I was hoping for. I found it pretty tame actually, and I was really hoping for it to be a lot more scarier and darker. Don't get me wrong, this novel had a lot of really good sequences. For instance, when Peter is hearing voices through his headphone set, that was really entertaining, and the basement itself is super creepy, and I think I just wanted a little bit more. It could be the length. This book is incredibly short, so maybe it needed to be longer, but I ended up giving this one 3 out of 5 stars. After that book, I did decide to move on to the sequel, which was The Hungry Ones, and surprisingly enough, I enjoyed the heck out of this one a lot more. This one centers around a haunted hotel, and it follows a young woman who buys said haunted hotel to renovate it and open it back up for business. Now, this hotel has a big history behind it, and that is there were like 12 murders within it. That's no good. I found the plot to this one to be much fuller than the first. I think it's mostly because I was very invested in the characters a lot more, especially the little boy who is prominent throughout the story. Even though, I'll be honest, his inner monologue made him sound like he was like 30, even though I think he's only like 7 or 8. And there was also one point in the story that I found to be a little bit convoluted, but all of this still wasn't enough for me to dislike it. I loved the main character and her best friend, and it was also really fun to see characters from the first book play a huge part in the plotline to this one. I ended up giving this one 4 out of 5 stars. If you're looking for something to keep your interest, to keep you guessing, and to make you a little bit nervous, then maybe check the series out. Okay, so moving on, this one was a total spur of the moment read, but I decided to pick up The Bone Houses by Emily Lloyd Jones. This is the beautiful Owl Crate exclusive edition. We have finally broken the YA fantasy curse. It's been too long. I thought all hope was lost. It brings a tear to my eye. This is an atmospheric YA fantasy that will make you feel like you're traversing through this mystical English medieval countryside with the dead rising around every corner. Honestly, who knew a book about zombies could be so beautifully written? On its surface, The Bone Houses is a tale of a gravedigger with a bring it on attitude who is taking care of her siblings, and she disposes corpses that walk out of the magical woods that surrounds her village, and a quiet map maker who has one heck of a Hufflepuff personality, and you'll just want to hug him and carry him around with you forever, as they make their way to this abandoned castle to break a curse. This book is so richly complex, which is one of the first things I loved about it. There are so many layers to the characters and their stories and how they interweave together. Also, the world building is just excellent. The author uses wealth, mythology, and history to build the foundation for the setting, and I so enjoyed reading about the Welsh mythical creatures that we get full passages of in here. Also, a very emotional plot that centers around family and loss and grief and how hard it can be to lose someone and try to move on. And the author does a perfect job at portraying a character who goes through chronic pain. Relatable. And there's a freaking badass goat that we get to follow the entire narrative of, which is a total win for me. This book just really came out of nowhere for me, and I'm still like kind of in love with it right now. I mean, creepy medieval zombies, the characters travel through an abandoned mine, they traverse through a lake with a mythical creature within it. I mean, I could reread this right now and I would be a very happy person. I obviously gave this 5 out of 5 stars, and I could keep gushing about it. Look at me gushing about a YA fantasy. Like, will we ever see this again? I don't know. And now it's time for the book that you've all been waiting for. The final book I read this month. Mistborn, or The Final Empire, which is the first book in the Mistborn series by Brandon Sanderson. I don't want to be rude, but Brandon Sanderson deserves to step on 1,000 Legos for what he did to me. This wrecked me. In fact, my ghost is currently doing this review, so I finally did it. I finally read a Brandon Sanderson book, and I totally understand the hype. This is set in kind of a post-apocalyptic world that is buried in ash. I could feel it. I could taste it. This is a story about a group of people who have been enslaved for thousands of years by a tyrant called the Lord Ruler, and every part of their existence is literally controlled by him. I mean, his freaking minions have metal spikes going through their eyes, like pure nightmare fuel. But basically, our empire desperately needs a hero, which enters our beautiful characters. These precious characters are a group of rebels and thieves and tricksters, and they come together to try and dethrone this freaking evil human being or god. These characters are all insane, which is a continuous joke throughout the story that you can't help but laugh at, but they are such an adorable family. Sanderson seriously put together one heck of a diverse group, and they're so fleshed out that they felt like real people to me. The magic system in this is basically like a book version of an RPG. I couldn't help but picture the push and pull mechanic as like R1 and R2 on a controller. Figures my brain would go in that direction. This was perfect in every way, and I really feel like there's nothing I can say that hasn't been said a million times. But I loved Vin's character development so much, and Kelsier, or Kelsier, however you pronounce it. I also loved Sazed so much, and Ellen, and I cannot wait to continue the story. In fact, I've already started book 2, but I ended up giving this 5 out of 5 stars, and obviously it's a new favorite. I mean, how can it not be? Alrighty, so those are all the books that I read this month. Overall, this was a great month for me. Even though I only read 4 books, I found 2 favorites, which is a really rare thing to happen for me. Go ahead and give this video a big thumbs up if you enjoyed, because it helps me out so much, and go ahead and subscribe if you haven't, because I upload videos every single week. Follow me on Instagram at HollyArtsBooks, and on Twitter at HollyNiece, and until we meet again, happy reading.